anderes. Ähm, könnten das Zelda-Video nehmen mit dem Speedrun, was du da vorgeschlagen hast. Muss ich gerade mal kurz raussuchen. Äh, Moment. Okay. Also, das ist ein Speedrun, wo Link in Twilight Princess scheinbar 17 Stunden auf einen Rubin starrt. Aber keine Angst, das Video geht keine 17 Stunden. In Englisch, okay. Dann gucken wir mal. Wie erklärt, warum das ein Speedrun ist und was der Unterschied zwischen Low Percent und Any Percent ist. Ah, okay. Dann lass mal gucken. Ich kenne die Stimme. Ist das Gymnast? Oh, shoot. Nochmal.
In speedrunning, there are two basic categories that can be applied to pretty much every game: any
Ist die Stimme
percent and 100%. The
Gymnast?
goal of the any percent category is to complete the game as fast as possible. It doesn't matter how much of the game you go through, so long as you can get to whatever is defined as the game's ending without modifying the game. The 100% category also has the goal of completing the game as fast as possible, but adds on the requirement that the runner must collect all of the
Stellt
things
sie mir
the
vor,
game
okay.
has to offer. What things are required depends on the game and the speedrun community that surrounds it. In addition to these two categories, there's also a third lesser run category that can be applied to most games called low percent. The goal of this category is to complete the game as fast as possible while collecting the least amount of things. So it's sort of the inverse of 100%. Now, some of you might be thinking, wait, isn't that just any percent? I mean, if you're skipping everything that it's possible to skip, then you should be playing less of the game and therefore the run should take less time, right? The answer to that is sometimes. For example,
Okay.
the current Ocarina of Time any percent route gets only 3 items: Kokiri Sword, Deku Shield, and Deku Nuts. That's all you need to beat the game as fast as possible.
What? Nur Schild, Schwert und die Dekonüsse? Mehr braucht man nicht für Any Percent?
And as
Mal
far
gucken.
as current game knowledge goes, you can't beat the game with less than 3 items. So for Ocarina of Time, any percent is low percent. For now,
Okay.
at least. But that's not going to be the case for every game. For many games, going out of your way to get extra items will save time, as those extra items may be good for dealing with enemies quickly or for performing skips that save more time than their requirements take to obtain. In the current Breath of the Wild any percent route, runners pick up a bow as well as different types of arrows to prepare for the Blight fights and Calamity Ganon. Obtaining arrows is not required to beat the game, but using them for these final fights drastically reduces how long it takes to get through them, compared to, say, only using swords. So for Breath of the Wild, any percent is not low percent. And this is when the idea of low percent starts to become an interesting
okay, ich
question.
verstehe.
For most speedrun categories, progress happens when you can beat the game faster and faster. That applies to low percent as well, but there's a second way low percent can make progress that other categories can't, which is when someone figures out a new glitch or technique that reduces how many things are necessary to reach the end of the game.
Reduces Item Count? Also halt mit weniger Items. Huh. Okay.
Even if it makes the run longer. Since the primary goal of low percent is to complete the game with the least amount of things necessary, it's possible that a new world record in a game's low percent category will be slower than a previous one. On leaderboards, low percent runs are typically sorted first by how many things the runner obtained.
Weniger Items ist besserer Rekord. Okay. Ich verstehe.
And then by what the runner's time was. So, if I can...
Wait, what? Das war's schon? Anzahl an Items, die man benutzt und dann halt die Zeit, die man dafür braucht. Okay. Wow.
So, if I complete a low percent speedrun in 2 minutes using 10 items, but another runner completes a low percent speedrun in 2 hours using only 9 items, their run is better. The reason low percent isn't as prolific as the typical any percent and 100% categories can be for any number of reasons, such as the aforementioned case of low percent being the same as any percent, or if nobody believes running low percent for a game would be very interesting or fun. And for some games, even attempting to run low percent becomes ridiculous. This is the case for The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess.
Jetzt bin ich gespannt.
To put into perspective how weird Twilight Princess low percent is, let's first compare it time-wise to some other categories. The current any percent record at the time of this video is just under 3 hours, and the 100% record is around 6.5. The current low percent record is 24 hours, 59 minutes, and 52 seconds.
Was? Höre einfach fast 20 Stunden länger. Aber interessant, dass für 100% nur 6 Stunden. Ha. Das ist krass. Wusste ich auch noch nicht. Für 100% 6,5 Stunden. Ha. Aber einfach für Low Percent 24 Stunden. Fast 25 sogar. Krass.
Almost 4 times as long as the 100% category. Compared to the any percent category, low percent skips an additional 8 things that are usually collected in any percent, where
Twilight Princess 100% Speedrun, wenn der Switch kommt. Nee. Aber wenn das wirklich mal irgendwann mal auf Switch kommen sollte, dann habe ich Bock, das zu spielen. Vor allem, in welcher Version kommt das dann? In der normalen oder in der gespiegelten? %100% Slow Run. Der dauert dann wie lange? 50 Stunden? Ja, mein Gehirn hat gerade irgendwie, ja, es ist Slow Run mit Low Person vermischt. Ich gedacht so, 100% Low Person. Aber ja, das ist, solange wie ich mich anteile, ja.
Things in Twilight Princess are defined as items, collectibles, and warp portals. With its additional 22 hours, Low Percent skips 3 Poe Souls, 2 small keys, and 3 warp portals compared to any percent. That's it. But obviously the question remains, why does this
Ja,
take
es ist
so
das so drin.
The answer to that is a technique known
Aber warte mal, man braucht für Twilight Princess, braucht man was?
why does this take 2 small keys and 3 warp portals compared.
Also drei Posts, drei Geisterseelen, 2 Schlüssel und 3 Warportale. Okay. Huh.
Compared to any percent. That's it. But obviously the question remains, why does this take so long? The answer to that is a technique known as pickup sliding. On December 26,
Pickup sliding?
Twilight Princess speedrunner Zelu was playing his game and opened up the treasure chest in Snow Peak Ruins, which contains the bedroom key. And then, for whatever reason, just left the game on and went to do something else. Their game stayed on overnight, and when they came back to it the next day on December 27th, Link was inside the chest instead of being in front of it where he should be. This
Link ist jetzt in der Truhe drin, ne?
confusing behavior was shared with the community, where community member Dragonbane took a closer look at Link's idling animation and found something strange. Normally, when Link opens a chest or picks up certain items as a human, he'll turn around and show the player what they've picked up with a text box that describes the item and waits for the player to close it. Since the game doesn't know when the player will close the text box, Link is put into an idling animation that loops indefinitely. During every frame of this animation, Link's position changes by a tiny amount depending on how he sways. But he doesn't go anywhere because the animation always returns him to the same position after every loop. Or at least that's what it probably should do. What Dragonbane found was that this animation loop seems to be missing a frame right at the very end of its cycle, meaning that every time Link loops through this animation, his position shifts. If the animation had just one more frame to it, Link wouldn't shift at all. On its own, a pickup slide doesn't seem like it would be such a big deal. Until we realize that during an item pickup, the game disables all of Link's collision checks.
Was ist da gerade passiert? Wait, what?
A pickup slide doesn't
Wir ziehen einen Bumerang, um den Rubin zu kriegen.
seem like it would be such a big deal.
Er rennt aber schnell ins... Oh, er rennt dann ins Wasser und der Wirbelsturm zieht ihn quasi nach unten. Ah ja.
Disables all of Link's collision checks except for the one to make sure he's still standing on solid ground. In other words, Link can clip through anything during this animation. It just takes a while. While Link's speed can vary wildly for each attempt at a pickup slide, the fastest he can go is roughly 0.007 units per second. For reference, Link's regular walking speed moves him at roughly 700 units per second, so a rupee slide at best is 100,000 times slower than walking. At minimum, Link will need to move 36 units of in-game distance to fully clip through a wall.
Das ist
so if we do the math, we find that it
das ist der
takes
Punkt, wo es mir zu hoch wird.
to clip through a wall.
Das ist der Punkt, wo es mir zu hoch wird. Da komme ich nicht mehr mit.
Traveling perpendicular to the wall. Now, as any Twilight Princess player will know, Link really likes to show off blue or yellow rupees every time he collects one. This makes it possible to perform a pickup slide with a rupee, often just referred to as a rupee slide. Since we also have the means of manipulating where certain rupees can drop, this allows us to begin a rupee slide at an optimal location right up against a wall. During attempts, runners will make a rupee appear from some nearby source and bring it over to the desired location using the Gale Boomerang or by picking it up with Link's Quick Spin attack. Since the direction and speed of a rupee slide is somewhat random, runners will actually then activate a cheat code to see Link's coordinates adjust in real time.
Ah ja.
Use those adjustments to calculate whether or not Link is moving in the correct direction.
Oh, also praktisch RNG-Manipulation. Sozusagen.
Runners would probably have to wait at least 10 minutes or so between each attempt at the slide to see if their direction and speed are good. Once the math confirms that Link is moving in the proper direction with good speed, it's time to wait.
Oh lol. Warte mal. Und das jetzt wirklich 17 Stunden lang? Oh, warte mal. Der verschiebt sich ja wirklich immer weiter. Jetzt ist er im Zaun schon drin mit dem Kopf. Oh lol.
Rupee sliding was first tried out in the Arbiter's Grounds dungeon to skip the infamous Poe Gate. Normally, you need to obtain.
Ich frage mich ja, was die Speedrunner, die ganzen Speedrunner in der Zeit dann machen. Wo die dann in dem Fall jetzt 2 Stunden warten.
Souls in the first part of the dungeon to open up the gate and proceed to the second part.
Bin hier, um zu schauen, worüber sich Icarus und Demon Packers unterhalten und austauschen. Hallo Sascha. Ja, ich grüße dich. Ein wunderschön mit dich hier. Gucken wir uns gerade einen Speedrun an. Das Video heißt, ist halt auf Englisch, aber das ist ein Video, wo Link in Twilight Princess für 17 Stunden auf den Rubin schaut. Und nein, das Video geht keine 17 Stunden. Und da werden auch ein paar Speedrun-Dinge so erklärt. Zelda Red Dreams aus. Ja, ich lerne. Dieses Stonk-Emote.
The any percent speedrun manages to skip one of these poses and still open up the gate because the gate only checks for what it assumes will be the last 3 poses you collect. But with a well-positioned rupee slide, you can simply phase through the gate after a short 13 hours to skip the last 3 poses. This slide.
Warte mal. Der hat sich verbessert. Wollte ich Short sagen, sondern irgendwas anderes.
After a short
doch, hä? Was?
After a short.
Warum ist da nochmal Short in. Achso, weil's. Ja, Short, aber trotzdem nicht Short, weil es dann länger dauert. Okay, ich verstehe, warum dann Short in Häkchen. Okay, ich verstehe. Ja. Okay. Hab verstanden.
Short 13 hours to skip the last 3 poses. This slide in particular takes so long due to the Arbiter's Grounds limiting Link's speed more than other areas. So with just that skip, low percent becomes at least a 16-hour run. The 3 portals that low percent skips are the North Farron Woods, Death Mountain, and Hyrule Castletown.
Dankeschön. Übrigens funktioniert Hans wieder. Also ETS. Den hast du nie gespielt. Dann wird es ja jetzt recht Zeit, dass der auf Switch kommt. Ein gutes Spiel. Gutes Spiel.
Portals. Skipping the Death Mountain and North Farron Woods portals are fairly trivial and add only a few minutes to the run, but skipping the Hyrule Castletown portal involves doing a bit of a lengthy setup to ride Epona out of bounds and enter Castletown through the east instead of west entrance during the Lanayru Twilight. Skipping this portal adds around 7 minutes to the run.
Das ist einfach, als wenn Epona einfach fliegt. Ich lieb Out-of-Bounds-Glitches so sehr, ne? Du siehst dann einfach das Spiel nochmal komplett aus so einer anderen Sicht. Das war der Musikantenknochen. Ah. Ah. Autsch. Oh. Schmerz lass nach. Ich bin mit dem Ellenbogen gegen meine PS3 gekommen, die hier liegt. Oh. Oh. Eieiei. Au. Yikes. Okay.
If done well. This leaves us with just the 2 small keys left. One of the small keys that gets skipped is in the Snow Peak Mansion, and it's just a little slower than getting the key, so it doesn't add any significant amount of time to the run if it's executed well. That leaves us with just one small
Lässt du die PS3 im Weg liegen? Die steht halt direkt neben mir. Das ist vielleicht. Ja. Wenn ich den Arm weglasse, dann ist sie so 30 cm von mir entfernt. Wenn ich den Arm auf meinen Schreibtisch lege, dann bin ich mit meinem Arm direkt dran. Weil ich stehe da direkt auf dem Schreibtisch. Das stand vorher die PS4. Aber durch die PS5 ist die PS4 jetzt. Ja. Nicht mehr. Brauche ich halt nicht mehr. Deswegen habe ich da jetzt die PS reingestellt.
Low percent skips. At this point, skipping the prior 7 things we listed makes the run about 17 hours long, 13 hours of which is spent staring at a blue rupee. The final small key that low percent manages to avoid is the very first one in the Farron Woods. This key unlocks the gate to North Farron Woods, but there are conveniently some Bokoblin enemies nearby that can drop blue rupees and allow for a rupee slide through. So, we should just use one of those rupees for a rupee slide and the small key is easily skipped after a few hours, right? Well, no. If we just rupee slide through the gate and continue the game, we have to come back to this area later as Wolflink. But rupee slides don't work as Wolflink, so we'd just be forced to go and get the small key. We need to come back to North Farron later in the game to access both the Forest Temple and the Sacred Grove for the Gale Boomerang and Master Sword items respectively. The only way we can skip the Farron Woods small key is if we can somehow get both of these items the first time we...
Warte, what? Speedrun, die das auf Deutsch?
Boomerang and Master Sword.
Das sehe ich ja jetzt erst, das fällt mir jetzt erst auf. Das ist aber deutsche Schrift.
Temple and the Sacred Grove for the Gale Boomerang and Master Sword items respectively. The only way we can skip the Farronwood's small key
Das
is if
fällt
we
mir
can
jetzt erst
somehow get
auf.
both of these items the first time we reach the area as Human Link. Unfortunately, the Forest Temple is blocked off by a pair of boulders at the beginning of the game to make sure that players can't access it early. And
Deutsch wird häufiger genutzt als du denkst in Speedruns. Ah. Ich dachte immer, Japanisch wäre der Way to go. In Wind Waker zum Beispiel ist es Italienisch. Ah, interessant. Im BTW lange Zeit Deutsch oder Französisch. Hm. Und welche ist es heute? Französisch. Aber interessant, wie die da mit den Sprachen so experimentieren. Welche sich dann am schnellsten wegklicken lässt.
you're only supposed to access the Sacred Grove much later in the game after completing the Lakebed Temple. Thankfully, this problem
Was war das am Anfang gerade? Was? Wait, was ist da passiert?
access it early, and you're only supposed to access the Sacred Grove much later in the game.
Was passiert da? Was?
Sacred Grove much later.
Ist das, Digga, also der sagt gerade Sacred Grove, ist das irgendwie eine geheime Heulfunktion? Weil, leider Growth ist nicht Heul. Wer meint. Hör doch null auf, dass im Video permanent bei den Buttons oben rechts auf Deutsch was steht. Ja, okay. Das ist mir halt auch nicht aufgefallen, nee.
Later in the game after completing the Lakebed Temple. Thankfully,
Ach, zum Flexen, ach, ja gut. Ich meine, die machen ja oft irgendwas zwischendurch, um sich, keine Ahnung, Zeit zu vertreiben.
this problem does have a solution, but it's a very convoluted one. In Twilight Princess, it's possible to transfer a bomb bag to a new file if you've completed the Midna's Desperate Hour portion of the game on another file already. You can then use Isa in Upper Zora's River to duplicate bomb bags into Link's inventory and carry them onto the title screen using something called the Back in Time glitch. Then, you can save over your file to save the progress of the bomb bag right at the beginning of the game. This works
Stimmt, jetzt
fine
Englisch.
for low
Ja.
percent in Twilight Princess because the category only counts the things you collect on the file.
Welche Sprache wir Lust haben.
So you can just start a new file, speedrun the game up until the point that you can duplicate the bomb bag while collecting whatever items you want, and then transfer a bomb bag onto a new file and continue it from the beginning. Then, on the new file, you can perform the previously mentioned rupee.
Warte, was?
You want, and then transfer a bomb bag onto a new file and continue it from the beginning.
Wo kommt der Rubin her? Huch! Wo kommt denn der jetzt her? Vom Bit? Back in Time. Ah, okay.
Then, on the new file, you can perform the previously mentioned rupee slide to skip the small key in Farron Woods, blow up the boulders in front of Forest Temple to enter and obtain the Gale Boomerang, use the Gale Boomerang combined with the long jump attack glitch to get into the Sacred Grove as Human Link, perform another 2.5-hour rupee slide to get past the first area, and eventually make your way to the Master Sword, where you will be greeted by this lovely cutscene.
What?
Once you obtain the Master Sword, you can finally save Talo in front of the Forest Temple, and then you can leave North Farron without needing to come back. And that is the entire convoluted process of skipping this one small key, which adds another 7 hours to the run. The total runtime is now almost 24 hours, and at least 17 of those hours are spent staring at blue rupees. Currently, only 2 runners have ever completed a low percent speedrun, Taka and Anarakis, with Anarakis holding the current world record at 24 hours, 59 minutes and 52 seconds.
Das Game geht davon aus, dass man hier als Wolfling ist, wie es eigentlich sein sollte. Der Link war halt gerade einfach Transformer. Die Namen, die kenne ich übrigens gar nicht.
Obviously, given the length of the low
So ein paar Namen kenne ich ja, die Speedrun, aber die Namen, die sagen mir halt gar nichts.
percent speedrun, combined with the enormously high cutscene to gameplay ratio, it's not a very popular category. And the sadistic part of me wants to let you know that it could be even worse, if you want it to be. There's one more small key located in the City in the Sky dungeon that is technically possible to skip. However, skipping this small key is way beyond just being difficult. It requires performing multiple frame and position perfect instances of a complicated technique known as clawshot actor displacement. Using this technique, it's possible to literally rearrange the level geometry of this room in City in the Sky.
Alter,
And use the
Junge,
clawshot for a bunch of precise bombs.
Die ganzen Inputs, die du da machen musst. What? Das war ja viel zu viele.
Boosts to gain height and make it to the upper part of the room. No human has ever successfully performed this skip, and it's considered to be TAS only. But
Ach, hier, TAS only, also Tool Assistant Speedrun. Ah ja. Frame Perfect Inputs, ja. Er sagt aber gerade, dass es kein Mensch geschafft hat. Außer halt mit dem Tool Assisted Speedrun.
being able to execute this skip would lower the item count by 1 compared to the 2 runs that are on the leaderboard.
Menschen haben es schon geschafft, die mussten halt auf Tests zurückgreifen. Ja, deswegen hatte ich das ja gerade nochmal dazu gesagt.
This means that if someone felt inclined to perform a low percent speedrun and add this skip, it wouldn't matter if it took them a week, a month, or even a year to skip the small key. When that run finishes, it would be a world record since nobody before would have completed Twilight Princess with as few things as it did. It would also simultaneously be the longest, craziest, most difficult, and most boring speedrun of Twilight Princess ever done, which quite frankly is an impressive combination of traits for a speedrun to have. This is the current state of Twilight Princess low percent. Whether or not it'll be possible to skip more things in the future is of course unknown. We'll never truly know what the least amount of things we can beat the game with is unless the day comes where the number of things drops to 0. Until then, we make do with what we know to be possible. And in the case of Twilight Princess, where collecting the least amount of things ironically takes the most amount of time, we stare at rupees for over 17 hours.
Warte, was? Das kann passieren, dass er sich hier festhält? Oh, wow. Das ist interessant.
Stare at rupees for over 17 hours. Special thanks to Taka and Dragonbane for helping my research with this video. I'm Gymnast86.
Ah, siehst du, ich wusste, ich kenne die Stimme. Gymnast. Ich wusste doch, ich kenne die Stimme.
And thank you for watching.
Ich wusste doch, ich kenne die Stimme. Aber gut, sich am Ende vom Video vorzustellen, wenn Leute reinschauen, die nicht kennen, ist eine super Idee. Ja, perfekt. Beste Idee überhaupt. Noch eine? Hm. Also wenn du noch ein Video hast, dann ja. Ansonsten würde ich jetzt mit OOT weitermachen. Oh, außen fährt der Kleidersammlerwagen. Mit der schönen Melodie rum.